Hello, good evening, welcome along to the JACKOCAR Cup Series here for Season 6, Round 4. We're back in Saudi Arabia. 10 weeks it's been since we were last here, and since I was last here, sorry I've been away for a while, but Jacko has been holding the fort very well indeed. You'd hope so, really, having named everything after himself. And yeah, we're back. Me and Jacko as a team. Spar have not got me in this week, and hopefully we'll be here to do it all over again for the rest of the season. It should all be good, all back to normal. And I can't wait for this, because first commentary on the new game for me. We know how good this track has been the last 2 times we've been here. And yeah, I'm just happy to be back, Jacko.
It's good to hear. It was a pleasure, actually, leading the line for a change, but thank God you're back, because I was running out of things to say. I don't know as well if you heard during Abu Dhabi I ran out of breath. That's something that you don't do, so it shows we do need a proper full-time commentator. But yeah, welcome back. You haven't, I was about to say you haven't missed much, you've missed quite a lot.
I think I've missed a lot, yeah.
3 winners from the first 3 races, the first time we've done that since Season 2, would you believe, in the Cup Series. And back in Saudi Arabia where we crowned a champion 10 weeks ago. So yeah, you've come back at a decent time, an exciting time for JACKOCAR, right before a 2-week break. But good to have you.
Yeah, I thought I'd make a wee cameo, before we disappeared again. So we are waiting, as usual, for the first car to come out. I noticed that the timer isn't breaking on this game, because normally we'd load into the lobby on 21 and our timer would start before everyone else gets here, but I'm saying that it's working properly now, so hopefully we'll be able to work to the timer and see T's coming out of the pits first. If you're new to JACKOCAR, you'll know that everyone comes out of the pits in reverse points order, not championship order as such, because you win a race, you're through to the playoffs, it works slightly differently, which is why you'll end up seeing Christian Ataro going out second last, even though he's only 4th from the standings. It's very simple, I just make it sound complicated. But yes, T's will be the first one out there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing these liveries, because obviously I've seen them watching the streams before, but I've not been able to play about with the onboard cameras and have a proper look around, so this will be quite fun.
You'll enjoy it until it breaks and we have to do a lobby restart, I'm sure.
Well,
just to draw your attention away from the excitement very quickly, Owen, have you read the chat?
Not much.
Okay, I'll tell you and the viewers at the same time. According to Ben Shaw, championship leader, wet race is on the cards.
Oh, we've had this happen before. And by the way, I am testing. I'm hoping this is going to work. That I've got the chat in the top right corner, because it sort of appears for a second. Because I've noticed in previous seasons that I've been neglecting the chat a little bit. Jacko, let me know if you want me to remove that, because I can if you want. But I have actually seen someone chatting, and it's cool, because I've not seen that for years on a stream.
It's Kaya, I believe.
Yes.
Kaya, of course, was our 71st driver in the league to race in Cup Series. But yeah, attention, in the meantime, turns to Tez. 7 starts in the Cup Series, and only 6 points. He has the potential, he has race winning potential, but we haven't yet seen it from him to finish races, and it is a shame because he is a very good driver. But hopefully, maybe tonight, who knows.
Well, this could be his night. If we're on for a wet race, then we will see that unpredictability. We saw it happening with the All-Star race, which is the first time we ever... I think that's just lag. I'm hoping that's just lag, because I was going to say if Tease is already hitting the wall in the outlap, we're in trouble, but he still seems to have all of his car intact, so we'll take that one down and blame Codemasters for it. But we saw in the All-Star race what the rain can do, and yeah, hopefully it'll be very exciting. And this case, we're sure it's a wet race, and we've got to believe our drivers. They would never lie to us.
Never. Anyway, take us for a lap, Owen.
So, as he heads through then, the first very tricky section now in this game, because of the way the throttle pickup is, Tease makes it through, and now we're into the S section in the first sector. The hardest part of the track, I would say, because, again, with how the throttle works on this year's game, if you make a slight mistake, you will spin and you will hit things. But Tease, taking it relatively carefully, that's not necessarily a bad way of going about it, because there will be a lot of invalidations in that section. So Tease, at the end of the first sector, is purple, of course. No one else has done a time. A lot of drivers get swept into the wall on the outside as they head through the first proper long left-hander, that middle sector, and then it's now the fast chicane sections. And yeah, T's definitely not giving it everything. That wall on the outside there as well, you can definitely hit that too. And then we have DRS in the correct places in this year's game. I noticed they were in the wrong place last year, but they've got them sorted now. Very wide on the entry to 46 and 47. Don't want to be doing that in the race. You could end up invalidated, because I think they've fixed the way track limits works around here. You used to be able to extend it a lot more, but not much anymore. And into the final corner, where we saw all sorts of drama being set up and executed in the season finale last season. Tees gets through with no problems whatsoever. He'll put the first time on the board, and that will be a 28.8.
Yep. And the second driver up this evening then is a Risky Racer. First time we've seen him compete in the Cup Series since round 14 in Season 5. I believe that was Brazil or Mexico. But as ever, Risky coming in with probably one of the best liveries that I think we've ever seen. He does this every season, doesn't he? That is my favourite this season. What a beautiful car as he comes out the final corner. And Risky Racer for the first time this season. He's kept it valid up to now, and he'll go P2.
What a livery. I very much agree. Very vibrant. We love a good pink livery. And yeah, I look forward to seeing that, hopefully, nearer to the front tonight. As we go to the man who has once again had a bad start to a JACKOCAR Cup Series campaign. We've seen this before from Jake. This is the track where he won the title, though, despite having the worst luck you've ever seen in the first half. What was it, 7 races before he got a point? Yeah. And yet he goes through, wins the chase, and becomes here as the complete underdog. 4 commentators, all of us, said he wouldn't win it. He won it, his first ever race win, his first ever championship win, and so what a place to kick off his season, because he's right down at the bottom of the championship. He has no points on the board, and, well, it's the only track he's ever won at, so we'll expect big things, but he's got to get the lap done first. And as he heads through to the final corner, let's see if he'll be able to put himself up to the top of the timing screens. He's got that 1 minute 28.8 to beat from T's. I'm not sure he'll actually be able to do that. He may just about. And I imagine that time will get beaten as he heads through the session, but it's P1 for now for the reigning champion.
Not bad. And from one champion to not another champion, it's Corey. However, he tells us he is going to win the race tonight. That's what he said about 10 minutes ago. But this is a qualifying ban, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say outlap crash, though. Is it for Leroy, or is he just quali ban? But, well, he's picked a place to go off, if he's out of it, and he is.
Yeah, no, the only quali ban we have tonight is Corey, so Leroy has made an error there. But I'll tell you what, because we've now got a gap because of Leroy, before we go to Pete, what do you think this livery is based on? Because there's a lot of talk about it being the Hamilton helmet from this year, or a W Series themed livery.
Well, it's obviously Hamilton, isn't it? The fluorescent yellow is trademark Hamilton, and the purple he still has in there as well, so we know he's very much Team LH. So, yeah, I'd be very surprised if that was a W Series livery, although I will say it does fit both aesthetics very well, yeah. I will say.
Corey is a Jamie Chadwick fan. That's the only link I can make to it being a W Series car.
Pete has gone off, and he'd already invalidated a lap beforehand, but he will be starting towards the back of the grid then. So, the Season 1 champion, as usual, unfortunately these days, just not making it work.
And one of the 2 jokers tonight as well, Pete Knighton. The other one is Casper Klein, who we'll see later on, with his broken pedal set, don't forget. But already safely into the playoffs is Casper. Up next, Owen, is Connor Byers, who isn't here.
Indeed.
So we've got a string of drivers at the moment, either crashing out, qualifying bans, or not turning up. So the next guy to actually have a legitimate lap will be Ben Harrott, who hasn't even left the pits yet.
He's on his way into the final corner. He's taking it very slowly. He slowed down to let Pete through, even though I'm pretty sure he overtook Pete while he was spinning, but he's just getting a lot of heat to the tyres. This is almost like watching a safety car restart rather than a qualifying outlap. So Ben clearly feels that he needs to be fully prepared to get this thing underway as he heads around the final corner. I'm interested in those predictions. SD or Jordan winning a race, according to Kia. It'd be good to see SD Mats winning a race, wouldn't it? He had a very good start to the season. But here comes Ben to start his lap. Once again, I'm loving his colour scheme. Mainly because it's the same as mine. You know I like my blacks, my greens and the blues, and so he's done well to bring those together. But let's see if he can put the lap together as he heads through. You can slightly cut that sort of first section of the S's, but you can see he's not confident, is he, as he drives around? That doesn't look at all committed.
Not at all. I was going to say, Ben Harrott, famous for... Oh, there you go, there's the invalidation. Famous for being part of the car that spun at turn 1 when Jake made his championship-winning move last season. Spun his own teammate, and it worked out quite well in his favour. But yeah, Ben will not be qualifying any higher than 12th this evening. Next up is the German driver, MK Bourne, the only German driver that we've had until Robin Bourdais joined us in Monaco. 72 drivers.
And he had sort of a day of days, didn't he, last time in Australia? I know the podium slipped away right at the end, didn't it? But he had a very strong performance, and it's we haven't seen that sort of high level from him since the early days in season 1. I'm really hoping that's a trend that's going to continue, because we've been waiting, I'm sure he's been waiting, to finally have that opportunity to fight at the front again.
Mentioned it a couple of times this season. He was the first pole sitter in JACKOCAR. Did you just see him out of turn 10 as well? It might be 10 or 11, I can't remember, but riding the wall, Tyler Reddick style. So Mike finding an alternative line around this track, will it work for him? But yeah, as you mentioned, he was P2 on the road last week after Casper's spin, and he did eventually drop down to P4. Comes up to some traffic, who gets out the way, and into the final corner, the Max Verstappen corner. Comes Mike Kelterborn then, Owen, up to the line. What can the German driver do for us? No longer in the, what he used to run, the 12 car, sorry. He's now in the 21, and he goes P4.
So, only the 4th time that we've actually seen put on the board today, and that is the 9th driver to attempt one, barring Corey as a quali ban. So the 8th driver to attempt one, so that shows you just how difficult it has been to get around this track so far today, and that's just in the dry. And you can see that Jamie hasn't even got his front wing intact as he heads through the final corner, and that will mean he has the slowest time for now, but a time is still a time, and so as it goes 5th fastest, only 1.8 seconds off the pace, so he must have lost that front wing a little bit later on in the lap. But yeah, at least he's got something on there. Next up, we do have Rookie. I've not had a chance to see how he's going to be getting on, Joe. Perhaps you can tell me a little bit more about Mr. Memic Sight.
Yeah, so 3rd start in a row now, the Kia Series driver from last season and this season when we returned from our 2-week break. But he's going to be given his chance in Cup Series. This is his 3rd start this evening, and he had a 14th last week in Australia, did Michel Goris, but he had a 6th on his debut in Abu Dhabi. What a drive that was. He was part of that 7-car train that any of those 7 drivers could have won the race. But, so he has been good. He has proven his worth so far in the Cup Series. I think actually this season, as we go into it, the gap between Cup and Kia is the smallest it's ever been, so you can see drivers like Michel here come in and do really well as he comes up to the line. It's P5, not the best lap, but a lap good enough to go top 5 for now. Good driver, watch out for him.
I look forward to seeing how he gets on. Next up, we've got Kieran heading round the final corner. He's faced a championship disappointment now, 2 seasons in a row, hasn't he? And we'll see, as he goes P1, if he can get a good campaign under today. He seems happy enough with a lap, a little wee jig as he crossed the line. Only a 10.5 clear, but with how much people are struggling out there today, it is still a decent time. It'll have him guaranteed starting in the top 10. Of course, it doesn't really mean that much anymore, because you get your free tyre choice wherever you start, and of course there's the potential for the rain to be there at the start. But still, you want to be near the front, and that is where he is. Yuri has unfortunately invalidated, and we saw him, of course, win the K Series title here last season. He's not going to be achieving much here today, though, if he keeps invalidating his laps.
No, you took the words out of my mouth there about drivers struggling. Yuri's just another victim of that as he completes what would have been his hot lap. Moving on, though, to Jess, who has put in an incredible season so far. 4th in Monaco, 5th after 2 races. She has now dropped down to 7th, but she still sits in a provisional playoff position. Tell you what, you speak of improvements. She is surely number 1, isn't she? Out of the JACKOCAR community.
Well, she's getting the EA money now, isn't she? So there's got to be a little bit of improvement as she comes around the final corner. Got to impress the higher ups, and she's going to do so, hopefully, with this lap, which is 7th fastest.
Yeah.
Now, we've heard a lot about Jordan, and we're hearing that he's going to be quite quick. And, well, with the ever-famous colour scheme that I adore from him and from Ben, but mainly him because he did it first, hopefully we'll see a big time. I gotta be honest with you, I pretty much use the same colours on my car on this game, so this may end up having to go down as the best livery by default.
Yeah, Jordan, one-time pole sitter then. Along with SD Mats, he is tipped to be the next race winner in Cup Series, the next new race winner at least. And everybody has been waiting a very long time for that to happen. Can Jordan pull it off tonight in what would be his 67th start? Up to the line, DRS wide open, and through he goes into P7.
So maybe we would have expected a bit more from him, but we'll see what he can do in the race. Here comes Gareth now as he heads through. Interesting colour scheme on this one. I'm liking the format of delivery though, the sort of template that they're using. It's nice to see that you can muck about with your different paint finishes. I kept going on about wanting that to happen, and it's good to see that drivers are making use of it. Maybe not my favourite, but it's certainly a unique look.
Absolutely. Gareth coming into tonight, by the way, saying he absolutely hates this place. He was glad that he was one of the 4 commentators last season for the Championship 5, but unfortunately for him tonight, he's got to survive, 27 laps around here? What can he do?
Well, he's
7 for now.
3 drivers going P7 consecutively. I'm hoping that Jamie Wright will break that curse, because we of course expect him to be a front runner, the 2-time champion of the JACKOCAR Cup Series. And, well, he left here relatively disappointed, I suppose, after last season. He never really had the pace at any point to challenge Red Matt, Ben and Jake when it came to going for the title. But new game and new opportunities, and of course already through into the playoffs. And so not a massive amount of pressure. And it's good that that is the case, because he has invalidated his time.
Oh, well, we can put some more pressure on Casper then, but just before we do, Jake shared a picture with a few of us showing how close he was to getting a penalty in the Championship 5 last season. Had he have got that, Jamie Wright was in the window to win his 3rd JACKOCAR Cup Series title.
Well, there you go. That's just how
despite
close it
not
was.
having the pace. Yeah, exactly.
Look at this
there you
livery for Casper, by the way. My goodness, seeing it under the lights. I gotta say, you're challenging Jordan right now for top livery, and hopefully he'll be challenging for the top time, because it's a purple middle sector, and it's about a second quicker than I've been seeing for the other guys going through there. So there's a chance it might actually be a real purple, but we'll not put our bets on it just yet, as he hugs the inside line, heading towards the final corner of the racetrack. Of course, another driver who's qualified, the first driver in fact, who got qualified for the playoffs this season. Can Casper put himself up to the top of the timing screens? No, only goes P4. And well, SD Mats, what a start to his season. I've been looking forward to this lap all day. I'm hoping we're going to see him hitting his stride, and Kia certainly as well, hoping for pole position for this man as he heads through the middle sector. It's a 101.4, so that's looking quicker than Casper. Maybe not enough for the top positions, but let's see it as he heads through anyway. A top 5 start, I'm sure he'd definitely take it. Second on points, but not qualified for the playoffs, of course, because he hasn't got a win yet. But, I mean, if he keeps the form up, he will be just fine. And, of course, the number 15, my number, so we all like that, as he heads through the final corner. DRS open, the black and blue machine. Where's it going to go? It goes P4, just in front of Casper. And that leaves only one driver left, Jacko.
Ben Shaw, who's been unhappy with all of his qualifying laps this season. He was scruffy in Monaco, he made an error in Abu Dhabi, and he was just slow in Australia. But I use the word slowly very loosely, because all 3 races he's qualified P2. But of course he'll be in good form with that win last week in Australia, so certainly made up for not getting pole. But what can he do? He's actually chasing the pole record, or that's one of his goals, is Ben. Looking for number 7 tonight if he gets it. And the number 29 car, he come here last season, he won it on track, but he didn't have the championship to take home with him because of that penalty. But can he come here with redemption tonight? It's only P2, he misses out again. 4 races in a row for Ben, where he starts P2, and the second time this season where Kieran is P1.
And I tell you what, it was a little mistake into 22-23, missed the apex at 22, and it meant he couldn't get on the throttle in time, because it was definitely very much on for him in middle sector Iceman, so I guarantee that he will not be very happy about that. I just want to check, Jacko, by the way, formation lap still off?
Formation lap is still off, yeah, I was going to tell you that.
Yeah, I don't know, I got to prepare myself, because this should be a very exciting start, because if the weather's coming, I'll be very interested to see the tyres everyone chooses. Will we see anyone starting on the softs, mediums, hards? All 3 of them are viable options, because of course you can choose whatever you like nowadays in F1. Finally, that stupid rule that the top 10 can have to start on their Q2 tyre. I never liked that rule, and I'm glad that it gives us more interesting strategies for JACKOCAR. Of course, though, the Jokers will still be hoping that the rain doesn't affect them too much. Pete and Casper up there in P6, he'll be hoping to do something good from there, but it could all be thrown out the window when we see this weather.
I think Casper will be happy-ish with P6, knowing he's only got 1 stop to do. Pete not quite so happy, but of course 1 stop less means it brings you back into it kind of straight away anyway. He starts outside the top 14. But yeah, Owen, your first rundown of the season, please. Yeah,
25 seconds to do it. Kieran on pole, Iceman second, Jake third, our champion, T's fourth, ST Mats, Casper, Risky, MK Bourne, Michelle, and Gareth the top 10. And then we have Jordan, Jess, and Jamie, the last of the drivers to set times. All the rest, Yuri, J-Luke, Leroy, Ben, Pete, and Connor didn't set a time. Corey had a qualifying ban, but still managed to beat Connor, who of course wasn't even able to do his lap. But looks like he's here, and hopefully we'll be able to start from the back of the grid.
Yeah, fair play to Connor for actually waking up and joining. Stage points tonight come at the end of lap 6 and lap 12. 2 jokers, as you know, and of course, Owen, the first time that you would have commentated over the new playoff point where most laps led during a race will gain you a playoff point. So far this season, that has been awarded to Casper, J-Luke, and Kieran.
Yeah, I'll be looking for you to do the maths on that one. Hopefully, because that would mean we'll have some action out there. I'm hoping that we won't see too much dominance tonight. Based on last season, this track is superb when it comes to the wheel-to-wheel action. 4 wide it was for the championship. Absolute madness. If you missed last season's season finale, I definitely implore you to watch it. It's probably the best JACKOCAR race we've ever had. If you're looking on a purely race standard, forget the chaos and the carnage, you can look at many races for that, but Saudi Arabia, superb track for it. And so 25 laps of racing around here, I have got very high expectations. And we just wait now.
We will be straight into it once this countdown ends. I'm just preparing myself with the empty playoff points that will be filled throughout the evening. Of course, stage 1, stage 2, most laps led, a point each for the second and third on the podium, fastest lap, and 5 points for the race winner. An extra 5 if a joker wins it, with 1 legitimate stop. Owen Wyatt, it's time for those famous words.
Indeed. 5 lights and boogity boogity boogity. Let's go racing in Saudi Arabia. Kieran gets off the line well. Iceman's on the medium, so won't be able to get there too quickly, which lets Jake through on the inside, and there's already contact T's, causing a bit of a traffic jam. Look at everyone crashing as they try and make their way through. Could see a safety car as we see T's at the back of the field, but Kieran leads away from Jake and from Iceman, the top 3.
Yep, the T's thought about sticking his nose up the inside of Ben, then backed out and just got caught out by the guys behind him, which spun him and puts him down to P19, as you see now. Kieran has a half-second lead over the current champion who won this race last season.
And it was so important that Jake got himself in front of Iceman, who's doing something different along with Casper and Gareth and Pete and Corey. Pete, Corey, of course, the Joker drivers, and Corey, the one who's at the back of the field, trying to get back to the pits with the front wing damage. His Joker day is essentially over. Pete, I Fink also has damage, so that's 2 Jokers already effectively out of the running, I think. Oh, sorry, I'm saying, should be saying Casper's a Joker, actually, shouldn't I? So ignore that. Corey's in trouble, though, regardless. But Casper, top Joker driver then, P5, chasing down, actually, ST Mats, who's had a very bad 22, 23, 24. No DRS just yet, so it'll all be on ERS as Casper harries and looks around the outside. Can he get this move done into the final corner? Very risky stuff early in this race, but if he gets the exit, which he should do, despite having the worst tyres, he's up. And we see Kieran at the end of lap 1 into the pits. That's a big statement. Is that something to do with the weather? We'll see how this plays out later on. ST Mats follows him in, and that means that Jake leads the end of the first lap.
Yeah, good racing there from Casper and SD. But, of course, SD up there once again in that top 5 that he did pit.
Wow.
And, in fact, we got 9 pitters there. So, clearly, everyone getting themselves onto the Joker strategy. Casper stays out. Pete stays out, as you would expect. And it's very much a game of strategy now. Will the weather play a part in this race? I think we may have been told a lie, earlier on, Owen, but we'll see how things go later on. Pete stays out with the wing damage, by the way.
Only one driver came out of the pits on the softs, and it was Kieran. The rest are on hards and mediums. So Kieran, is he going to get 2 stops out of the way quick and just get himself to the end of the race? Possibly even with safety car pit stops. As long as you get your mandatories out of the way on the green flag, you can put as many times as you like on the safety car. And I'm wondering if it's him sort of covering that off. If he has both stops done and out of the way, it could give him the opportunity to do whatever he likes on the safety cars. But yeah, he'll be pretty quick on his own with 4 seconds of clear air in front and behind. But yeah, fascinating strategy at the start of this race. Completely different to last season, as we see a yellow flag out there. Now, who's that for? That's for Corey. Safety car, virtual safety car. Now, will anyone pit? Surely Jake will. He's at the pit lane entry, and that will put him in a superb position.
Yes, it will. Just recording the lap. Ben did lead lap 2 there. I forgot what I was going to say, Owen. I'm going to hand back to you to spare the embarrassment. Oh, yeah, sorry, VSC. I expect Kieran to come in here, take advantage of this. He will indeed pit, so this will be for hards, I should imagine.
Jess.
Good strategy from Kieran.
Jess speeding into the pit lane, and yes, indeed, good strategy for Kieran, because it means he's got his stops out of the way, nothing to worry about. He can stick hards on, but realistically they'll probably end up coming off later on in the race for a set of mediums or a set of softs. Depends how safety cars play out. But in terms of the actual sort of net race leader, I suppose now you do look at Jake, who's out there on those medium or those hard compound tyres, because I mean, the VSC lasts on. I suppose he could make a second pit stop, but I imagine it'll be over before he gets out there. But he'll have that pit stop advantage over Kieran regardless, as Connor speeds at the end of the VSC. I don't think anyone else did, so it should be okay for the rest of the field. But I tell you what, I'm going to sort of keep my eye on Jordan and see how he gets on his fresh set of sauce. Same with Pete, because, well, they're the only ones who are doing sort of something different right now.
The problem with what Pete's done by putting the softs on, obviously they won't go to the end, so that's the end of his Joker. He can still win the race, but he won't get the 5 extra playoff points if he were to win. Something he hasn't done for, or do the maths, 80 races, something like that.
Sounds about right, doesn't it? What was it, Hungary? Or was that his first one?
Italy,
Hungary, Italy, someone else. Spa,
yeah.
Feels about right. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time. We've been here too long.
2.5 years.
I know, he says after being away for 10 weeks.
I'm sure the glory days will come back to Pete at some point. He's actually closing in on Kieran here, as you'd expect on those better tyres. You see MXI and Michel Goris exiting the pit lane after his first stop, and it leaves the front 3, one of which is a Joker, are the only ones yet to make any sort of stop.
2 Jamies fighting away out there. Jamie getting in front of J-Luke, and so those medium tyres proving to be strong, but it's 5 seconds up the road where you will find Jake, who I did call the night race later, but of course you're right, with Casper being up there all he really has to do is mind his own business. He doesn't really have to worry about Iceman. It's so early on in the race. He knows that Iceman's got to make 2 stops and he only has to make 1. So actually, he's looking pretty good. A safety car, if it came out now, would sort of upset Casper's strategy. He actually wants this to stay green long enough for him to make his normal scheduled stop so that Kieran doesn't get a chance to close up all the gap, because of course he doesn't have to pit at all for the rest of the race. Yellow flag, that's for Ben Spurs. He's facing the wrong way, no front wing. That could very easily be a safety car. Something's come out. Trying to see if I can see a sign. Is it a safety car?
Yeah. Look on your mini-map, turn 1, turn 2, there is a safety car that's out. Unfortunately, the way this game works is we don't get notified of that anymore. I
know. It's a very handy feature, Codemasters. Thank you so much.
So yeah, any stops that we get now will be non-mandatory. They won't go towards the totals of the drivers. As the lead pack files through, Jamie Griffiths is the first to take an extra stop.
And so I'd say this is bad news then for Casper, because like I say, this is going to let Kieran close up all the way onto the same train as he is on, and he'll pass a few cars in the pits as well, so he'll even close the gap in terms of how many cars are in between himself and his main rival tonight, I would say. So yeah, Kieran, happy enough with this, although I still expect later in the race he'll want to get rid of those hard compound tyres, because that's not really what you want in the last sort of 5-10 laps, because that is surely not the only safety car we're going to see tonight. We've already seen a VSC and a full safety car in just 4 racing laps. So yeah, I'm expecting this not to be the end of it, but it'll get the field to close up and all the strategies to sort of start aligning, because that early phase really was just let's watch some pit stops.
I'm just trying to recall what happened strategy-wise in the Championship 5. Of course, we won't talk about the All-Star race where the weather was manipulated. But I can't remember how many safety cars we had last season.
I don't really remember the strategies for last season, because it all sort of got wrecked by safety cars, I think, which was good for us because it meant it was very easy to follow what was going on. All I know is that it kept everyone on the same page, whereas this, there's so much differing strategy out there. And since we're on Saudi Arabia of all tracks, I'm sitting there saying Kieran's in a good position. Kieran's in the mid-pack. That isn't a good position. We saw where Tees was. He spun mid-pack, turn 1, and caused all sorts of mess. So, you know, it isn't exactly as easy as I'm making it sound for him. But he does know we can go to the end of those tyres. I don't think he will, because it will wreck his race pace. So yeah, strategies are very much up in the air, actually.
Yeah. It's nice to see Iceman finally leading some early laps in a race. He has a habit of leading 1 lap every time he goes on to win a race, and of course it only matters on the last lap that you're leading it. But yeah, I think this must be new technique from Ben, possibly. Maybe going for that most laps led point, stage point, something that we saw Red Matt do a lot last season with his 11 stage wins, more than anybody else. Not quite the record though, compared to Khalifa's 12 from season 3.
Yeah, and well, I'm just looking again. Obviously, we know Iceman gets this playoff point at the end of this lap. I'm just looking at the pit stops. I mentioned the 2 Jamies fighting earlier on. Jamie Griffiths is sitting here on some soft compound tyres, so he'll be looking to pass Kieran pretty quickly, I'm thinking, on this restart. He made one under the safety car, didn't he? So this is a quick stint he'll be on for. But this is the problem that Kieran will face. This is why I think he does have to pit again, because this isn't the only time in the race he'll deal with this. And we've watched Kieran try and win races. We've watched him successfully win too, but we've seen him successfully lose many more. And so, yeah, if I'm him right now, my brain is fried. I mean, my brain is fried, actually. So, yeah, I want to get this race back underway. I want to see how this all pans out, Jacko.
Yeah, Kieran may remember once won 2 in 3.
Yeah.
On the final sort of end of the playoffs last season, where he hit a bit of form. He couldn't quite carry it to Saudi Arabia. But yeah, he may be in the mid-pack there, but strategy complete. And well, yeah, he is the net race leader, because Casper, with his 1 stop, would end up filing in behind Kieran. with the gaps that the safety car has created here. Is it coming in this lap? There doesn't appear to be any notification yet, so we could have one more. It does mean Ben Shaw will pick up number 1. Stage 1 playoff point of the evening. That's his 5th lap led tonight and his 54th all time.
And it's at this point that we decide that chat being shown on screen is now banned. So that lasted long, thanks to the bots. I forgot that the bots would exist, so we'll get rid of that. I thought it'd be nice for a little bit of interaction. It worked in qualifying, but well.
Never mind. I imagine there was a reason why it wasn't on a display, but that's probably why.
Well, you know, I keep forgetting. I was sitting there thinking before the stream, you know, we used to sit and chat with the chat in all the races, but it's so difficult because I can't really leave the stats off of my phone screen because I'll miss something. So I'm sitting there with stats on my phone and I thought, that'd be nice to have the chat on the top corner, but it never works like that, does it?
Never mind. Pete, by the way, took an extra pit stop there. So he's now done 4 in this race. 2 mandatory, 2 non-mandatory.
He's busy with his pit stops, isn't he? Is he going for his own record?
The Monaco record.
Yeah, 9. He's managed 4 and 7. 6, sorry.
He's on his way, isn't he? Well, we do still have 19 runners, surprisingly. Corey, the only retirement. We didn't quite see what happened to him. And Corey's not been on to tell us what happened, but he did tell us he would win this evening, and that is not the case.
No. Doesn't surprise me. That's Corey through and through, sadly. But it's fine. He'll hit a run of form or a run of luck, however you want to describe it. I'm hoping now, when the safety car comes in, we'll hopefully get some good racing. Surely, with Pete now caught to the back of the pack, those lights on the safety car can be coming off, and yes, they are. So we get ready for the restart. The restart zone, extraordinarily simple this week. If anyone gets this wrong, that they should be removed from the league entirely, because it is literally the DRS activation zone. Everyone knows what that is, surely.
Well, if anyone knows where it is, it's the man who decided where it should be, and that is the current race leader. It's a rule change that he's brought in. A good suggestion to the league. So anywhere between the DRS zone and the timing line, Ben Shaw can go when he wants, and that'll be anytime soon. He's going to leave it late, and he goes now. Tries to catch Casper off guard, but I think Casper read it quite well, Owen.
There's so much going on in the mid-pack, though. They're nearly 4, 5, 6 wide as they head towards turn 1. Who comes out on top there? Look at that tease. He's got absolute balls of steel there. He was the one crashing in there last time round. He's the one getting his nose stuck in this time. And
big crash.
Big pile-up, and there's going to be so many cars taken out. And so, tease aggression. Was it too much once again? As we see Kieran out of the race, we see Jess out of the race, we see J-Luke out of the race, Leroy, Tease of course, and absolute carnage here in Saudi Arabia. Yuri will get away, as will Jordan and Pete, who I imagine would have got stopped to not get damaged. So hopefully all is good, but there is so much debris down there that we could see punctures for the race leaders as they come round next time. But there you go. What was I saying about Kieran? In the mid-pack, that's where the danger is.
It sure is. That's 5 retirements, let alone all the damage from other cars. Pete, as you say, did get away with it. Jordan did not, with end plate damage. Yuri has no front wing. Risky has part of a front wing. No, he's got his whole front wing. MK Bourne has no front wing. And Connor also has some damage as well. So that is at least 10 cars involved in that, and that's probably the biggest crash we've ever had. And no safety car.
That takes some doing after Monaco as well. But we now watch as Casper, as of now, he's staying within a second of our race leaders. We see SD Mats and Gareth going side by side. Of course, it's interesting to see that Jamie was able to get away from all that. I don't know if he was able to overtake, because they were already fighting. They were nearly 5, 6 wide, let us say, into turn 1. Jamie was lucky enough to sort of survive in all of that, and on these soft compound tyres. And if he can really get a move on, then he may be able to challenge Casper later on. So, I mean, keep your eye on Jamie. He was so close to qualifying for the Championship 5 race last season. So we know he's got some speed, and we know he's got 5th place. So let's see how he can keep going from here.
What was he, just 3 points away from winning the chase title or something like that?
So
it's
close.
Easy to forget that Jamie Griffiths is a race winner in JACKOCAR, and that the smallest margin of victory ever. What have you noticed?
Connor's off, but he hasn't hit anything, so we'll be able to keep going.
One of those races where you've just got to collect the points if you're still in it somehow. A lot of cars with damage, they've all pitted now. Pete actually found himself in the top 10 because he got away with the damage. Risky in 9th, and Ben Harrett, who was backwards at one point, is P8. Jamie Griffiths, by the way, closing in on SD Matts, Owen.
Yeah, that's the soft compound tyres for you. He's making good use of them. Kieran, by the way, taking the full blame for the accident earlier on, so he clearly feeling a little bit guilty, but it's good to see him taking the responsibility at least. Not sure it'll make people feel much better about themselves, considering it took 5, 6, 7, 8 cars out of contention. But Jamie, not quite able to get through in towards turn 1. Michelle into the pits. And I think Jamie will be sensible here and just make the DRS moves, because he's got the grip. He doesn't want to waste the tyres. They will be burning out soon enough. They don't last all that long round here.
No, they certainly don't. Like I say, nice from Kieran to accept the blame there. We'll wonder if it'll get reported. You may remember, actually, the last big one, Spa, Season 1, Season 2, whenever it was. It was never reported to the stewards.
Was Monaco ever reported as well, or were they just sort of...
I can't remember Monaco. I remember what happened. I can't remember what happened after the race.
Yeah.
The big ones tend to not get reported to the big ones, oddly enough. But we'll see. It's taken out a championship contender, J-Luke, by the way, which he'll be annoyed about because of the gap to people like Iceman and Casper and Ben is just going to increase after this race if they finish well, which at the moment they're running 1, 2 and 4 on the road. Jamie Griffiths has dropped back from SD Matts, by the way.
Yeah, I'm wondering if his tyres are starting to fall away a little bit. He had a decent 22, 23, 24 section, but I'm not sure he was in DRS range, so he's not going to be able to get the benefit of opening up that rear wing. Will he perhaps, in fact, now go for the pits? Yes, he will. And this could be his last stop of the day. We will have to wait and see on that. It is for medium compound tyres, so we reckon those will be able to go to the end from here. And as I say, yellow flag out for Yori, I believe, as he faces the wrong way, gets himself turned back round. Not under pressure from being lapped just yet, but one more of those and he could become under pressure. Luckily for Jamie, since there was so much chaos behind, he's able to come out of the pits with a huge gap behind, so all he can do is just look ahead and see what progress he can make. And he should be able to make some decent undercut on Casper, maybe gain about a second or two on him if he's able to get some good laps in. A safety car would definitely help now for him. But yeah, we'll see how this race pans out. He does look like he's struggling though, just a general downforce. I wonder if he did get some sort of contact in the incident earlier on, because it feels like he is just almost limping in it. I'm sure he isn't, but it just sort of feels like he's not at his full speed. And look at him, he's just not got the confidence. Of course, actually, cold tyres out of the pits.
Yeah, that's tyre warm-up, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what that'll be, actually. So, yeah, maybe give it a lap then.
SD Matts, I think, went up from 7th to 4th on that restart. And of course, it was about 7th on back where all the carnage happened. What was Kieran? He was P8 when he restarted, so yeah. SD Matts with a cracking restart, and it's actually saved his race and could make his season. It's one of those moments, and we talk about so many of these moments, how they can make and break races, win you championships, lose you races.
And so we watching, sadly, since the accident sort of happened, it is becoming a race of just sort of getting to the end now, because these guys don't really have anyone to race. So it is an interesting situation, this. We've seen this a couple of times before. Monaco sort of the main example, I think, for this league. But it is this day where finishing does give you a really good championship position. Because SD Matts, once again, it's not going to be a race victory for him as of now, but he's currently sitting second in the points. If he can secure this P4, it'll be... I wouldn't say, oh, he's a sure driver to get into the playoffs. I mean, keeping up with this sort of form, we know he's capable of it. He was so consistent at the start of last season, so it could still be a good day for some of them.
It'd be 4 top 5 finishes in a row for ST Mats is what it would be. What a season he's having. In fact, he's already outscored last season's start. By the way, Ben Shaw coming round to win the second stage and lead the 10th lap of the night for himself, but still has to make 2 pit stops. Casper needs to make 1 and Gareth needs to make 2. Casper makes his mandatory and his sole mandatory pit stop.
Now, of course, an interesting thing to note here is, of course, he can't go on to mediums because he's only on the 1 stop and he started on mediums, so he'll be on a slower compounded tyre for the second half of this race. And his main rival in terms of strategy is still going to be, I don't know, is Ben Spurs, has he made 2 mandatory stops? He has 3 on the board.
He has indeed, 1 non-mandatory.
And he is on 9 lap old tyres, so they won't get to the end. ST Mats, he could become the guy, I suppose. Is he on the... Yeah, so we're looking at him
he's
now.
Done. He's good to the end.
Him and Jamie, I would say, we're looking at, because they're both on the newer medium compound tyres. Of course, ST Mats the newest, and he will, though, have an 8-second gap to close down, so I'm not going to say it's easy, but you'd imagine a whole step softer, the tyres will be about the sort of half a second to full second a lot quicker for a decent period of time. And any penalties as well, of course, could get into play, and Casper being stuck behind Gareth, if you can't get through him quickly, there's still variables at play today, and of course another safety car.
Saying that, only the 2 penalties on the board for Risky and Mike. Yellow flags for Jordan or Pete. Pete in the wall.
Yeah, he's recovering though without any damage by the looks of it. As we see side by side into the final corner, Casper challenging with Gareth, and it looks to me like he's just holding on so we can get a really nice run on the main straight, ERS and DRS, and he'll probably be able to make some decent time thanks to that. And he's up into second place once again. And he, in the clear now. 21-second gap to Iceman, who is yet to make even his first stop of this evening.
By the way, champion Jake has just come out behind Gareth on fresh mediums. He's good to the end. So maybe he could be a rival for the race win. Imagine that, going back to back in Saudi Arabia.
Well,
1 to win your championship. And 1 to get you into the playoffs. What a good track it is for him.
He's going to get by Gareth straight away. See, that's a risky one to take on cold tyres, but let's see how he gets through on the inside. I think he's done it. Very nicely done. And so, yes, 2 seconds. A much easier gap to close than 8 seconds, isn't it? So let's see if Jake can do it as he heads through. He's going to have 12 laps, including the one we're on. And, well, if he can close to get into DRS first, we saw last season he was a master of controlling his ERS management. At the minute, it's the same as Casper, both on around 20%. But once he hits the DRS, it's Ben Pitts, once he hits the DRS, he was so good at managing the energy. And it meant he had full control on the final lap. Just to do whatever he wanted to do. So, yeah, Jake certainly knows how to win here. Let's see if he can do it. Iceman, he'll really be hoping he doesn't get undercut by Casper, but the fastest lap from him will not help his case. I think he's okay anyway. And, well, he'll have a tough time getting the heat into the tyres, but they'll certainly be done probably by the end of the first sector, I'd imagine. And I guess Iceman's just got to push like mad for the rest of this race. He kept the lead, which means he should be able to pick up the extra playoff point for most of the laps led. And yeah, it'll be soft to the end of the race, I suppose. And we'll just see if he can use his natural pace, maybe hope for a safety car after his last pit stop and get him right onto the back of the pack. But we'll see.
If Ben leads this lap, then he will get the most laps led playoff point as well. And that'll be 3 this evening. Of course, Kieran with the other 1 for pole position, now out of this race. But a good showing from Iceman. He's never led this many laps in a JACKOCAR race before. It's his own personal record.
And look at this. Jake has already taken over half a second out of Casper just in this lap alone. That is the extra grip of new, softer tyres, and that is the advantage it gives you. Look at him. He'll have DRS as he comes through to start the next lap, surely. The gap is under even 9/10 of a second, so he has even room for a little bit of error here. But Casper, he will be looking all in his mirrors. Could we be on for a 4th different winner in 4 races in Season 6? And can Jake go back-to-back in Saudi Arabia? It's the fastest lap as well. He's on fire right now.
Not only would it be 4 from 4, it'd be 6 from 6 if you count the last 2 races from Season 5. Incredible run of different drivers winning, all big names as well. So yeah, hopefully Jake can give us a show here. And imagine making your return, your first race back since winning that championship and going straight into a win. Wouldn't that be impressive for him?
I think he's definitely got the pace for it. Iceman's made over 1.5 seconds in the last lap, and so that's what he's going to basically have to be doing for the whole of the rest of the race. He could, in theory, be a force to be reckoned with if we come down to the last 3 or 4 laps, and he's on 2 or 3 lap old tyres, and these guys are on, 10 lap old tyres. Then you could see a 2-3 second gap every lap, and maybe that's where Iceman can make the advantage work. But if we're looking purely on strategy terms, Jake right now only has to worry about Casper, and I don't think it's even going to be worth worrying about, because once he gets his DRS and has a good run, he'll be through surely, because this is the easiest move he'll probably have all season, and it's for a race win. You can see him saving the ERS. He doesn't need to use it yet. Maybe he'll even sit behind and just farm a little bit of it to help him get away. He's using what he's saved now, and as you can see, it's as easy as that. Jake then, into the net race lead. Is it going to be 2 wins in Saudi Arabia in the space of 4 races in the Cup Series? He is becoming the big informed driver, our champion, and indeed proving why he is so at the moment. I don't expect him to catch Iceman at any point soon. I'm sure he doesn't expect it either. Iceman, well, he'll see the man behind him is now on mediums, not hards. Slightly bigger challenge for him. I'd still say the podium, by the way, is well within his grasp. But we know he wants to win. Of course he wants to win. So we'll see. We'll see if he can pull anything out of the bag at the minute. But it's Iceman from Jake, from Casper, the top 3 at the minute. And yeah, let's just see what happens.
So it should be manageable. But as ever, guess who's there in P4, ready to pick up the scraps? Of course, SD Mats, Cristian Hurtado, come into this season never having a playoff point. Did you know that, Owen?
That is impressively. That's a very interesting stat.
I know. And then Abu Dhabi, podium. Australia, podium. All of a sudden, he's got 2 playoff points. But yeah, he had just under 30 races since season 1. He's a day 1 driver for us. And yeah, that quite shocked me when I realised he'd never had a playoff point until that podium in Abu Dhabi a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that is surprising, because I think I remember the first league race we ever did with him was back in ILR 8, I want to say, when he showed up and dominated in Australia, and we thought, geez, this guy is, the guy, and no player points until now, as Pete recovers from the spin. But it's good to see SD Mats picking up the form now, because we knew it was always there, and we'll see it hopefully carry on throughout the rest of the season. Jake is doing a brilliant job, by the way, because Iceman is not pulling away, and Casper's doing a good job as well to hold on to the back of a faster car on faster tyres. DRS will of course be helping, but it just keeps him in play for if these mediums ever start to fall off for Jake.
I was going to say, oh yeah, sorry, I did have a stat, I went all quiet. I forgot what I was going to say then. I was just reading chat there, the Twitter chat. Apparently, Kieran, his crash that he had, was a separate incident altogether from the one that Jamie Wright had, yeah. I missed that personally.
Jamie and Tease came together, and that's why I'd initially mentioned T's aggression, because he was so aggressive on that restart. He really was putting his nose in. He started that restart in 12th place, and was up to around sort of 5th, 6th, that sort of area. So he'd really got his nose in there, but then fighting with Jamie, they had their collision, they spill across the track, and then suddenly Kieran's also having an accident. So, yeah, that big pile-up's actually 2 separate accidents that have come together in the same area. And, yeah, just a very unfortunate situation in general. I don't know whether there'll be any insured investigations. I'm sure you'll be hoping that they'll just sort of say, oh, well, just a racing incident. But if not, you could have quite a busy night.
You know me too well. I love an NFA.
Yep.
And back to the lead, though. Iceman, he's only found a couple of attempts on Jake. I don't think it's enough with 7 to go. I think either Jake or Casper have it covered. They've found 3 seconds on Christian in P4. So all it means is I think Ben's going to slot into probably 4th and try and hunt down Christian for that final podium spot at the end here. So yeah, Jake, the 2 ART boys, they seem to have it covered, but I won't speak too soon.
I'll tell you what, I'm thinking that Jake has Casper covered in terms of ERS, or DRS, oh yeah, just DRS. He's using his ERS, actually, to make sure that gap stays above a second, because I guess, since Casper now is out of the DRS range, there's nothing he can do to start to catch, because that is what was helping him counteract the extra grip that Jake has. So I'm expecting that gap to start to really open up as he continues actually to close on Iceman. Iceman is on his way into the pits, and I imagine it'll be now him versus SD Mats for 3rd place at the end of this race. I would count Jamie in there, but he's got the penalty and he's not on the back of SD anyway. So I would say Iceman and SD Mats for that last podium spot. I expect SD will be in front of him, but with the new tyres, I'd be amazed if Iceman doesn't have the pace. But let's see who gets out in front. It will actually be Iceman. Alright,
wow.
Okay. Well, that makes it a lot easier for us to work out then, doesn't it? Because I imagine he will be pulling away. He'll be picking up a fastest lap while he does it. So it'll be, what? It'll still be a decent day for Iceman. A very different strategy, and of course already through to the playoffs. And it might not be the race to win as it stands, but I still think he'll be pretty happy with this, actually.
Oh, and if you look at it this way, if you wanted further confirmation, he's led 18 laps today, so he'll get most laps led. He's won both stages. He'll get a playoff point for finishing on the podium, and fastest lap on those soft tyres. So P3 and 5 playoff points. Yeah, that's a good day at the office.
Very good day at the office.
That would put Ben on 12 playoff points for the season.
They all count.
Yep.
And he knows it. So, yeah, he's like I say, it's not the win, but I think he has actually done this race very cleverly. And, yeah, the rain was definitely a lie, though. The rain was, the rain was a lie. You got me all hyped up. And
they had us fooled there, didn't they?
Yeah. This is why we should be asking for receipts when they say things like that. But, oh, well, maybe next season. As Iceman, I mean, he'll continue to close the gap. We might as well sit on board, actually. Let's watch the fastest lap of the race get set. I'd be amazed if this isn't going to be the fastest lap starting right now. And we watched him miss out on pole, but if he'll see the purple pop up at the end of this, I'm sure he'll maybe feel a little bit happier. And the gap, I mean, it's closed by a second. It's just 5 laps to go, though. I think by the time he gets to Casper, the tyres will just be dead, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. But I was actually looking ahead of that, the gap between Casper and Jake. 3 seconds now. Jake has it covered, doesn't he? That's pending a last lap error that we saw last week from Casper himself. Then it's it appears to all be in hand. We're getting to the point as well now where it could be too late for a safety car.
Yeah, I think the big crash earlier took out all of the potential crash magnets in one go, which was quite handy, really, if you're Jake or Casper, because it's made their day so much easier to handle. And like I say, Jake did the perfect strategy anyway. Unless we see a safety car right now, I'm not entirely sure what's actually causing it. What is happening? Was it
Jake
Jamie?
Just lapped Yuri.
Jamie has lost a load of time. So I'm going to guess it's him who's maybe had a spin. Because he's not cost him a position, but it's cost him about 8 seconds to SD Mats in front of him.
There's your fastest lap
And
from
there's
Ben
the
as well.
fastest lap. Well, do you know
Which
what? He's
That's down to
gained...
9 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, he's gained about 2.5 seconds on that lap. So, the sad thing is, though, if he keeps it that, it'll still only be enough to be just on the back of Casper. Maybe if he overtakes him quick enough, it'll be worth it. But I guess Jake being so far in front means Casper's got no DRS to help him along. So maybe. But the softs have a bigger drop off period, don't they? Once they start to drop off, you're not going to lose a couple of times. You're going to lose a second on your fastest time, you know. So yeah, we'll keep our eye on it though. I'm sure he'll be going for it. And extra playoff points all the way if he can do it.
Absolutely, yep. And we never really get a chance to discuss, but driver of the day. As soon as it's all sort of settled down now.
Yeah.
Just before we do discuss that, Michel Goris finds himself up in P6 once again.
How do you manage
Great
that?
day.
Yeah, he's been very much on his own, hasn't he? I guess he's not really been focusing on too many of the drivers, actually. We've been too busy looking at the front. But he has had a very good day. Let's have a look, actually, where everyone has been moving based on where we started proceedings. I mean, Ben Spurs, actually. He's sitting out there on the soft compound tires having the time of his life. Up there in P7, having made 10 spots. That's gone very much under the radar. I'd say Jake would be a contender for driver today because he perfectly executed his strategy. I mean, he really did just have the best fin out there, didn't he? So I'd be putting him up there. But Ben Spurs, I think, as well. The pace hasn't always been there, but I mean, he's made the 10 spots. That's worth something.
Yep, Jamie Griffiths as well. A top 5 finish awaits him. And Iceman has got that way that gap's down to 6 seconds.
Yeah, I think Iceman, I'd say, probably he's done the best he can with what he's got, but maybe his big mistake would be being on this strategy. I'm sure he'll look at himself after and say, well, I could have done that differently. You know, if he had just pitted and covered off Casper instead of going off on a tangent and doing something else, maybe it'd be a bit easier. But at the same time, it's allowed him to pick up a couple of extra playoff points, and if he can somehow get second place at the end of it, then I suppose you can put him as another contender for driver today as well.
I think Iceman as well could well be playing the long game. I think regular season championship and those 12 points that you get for being champion, you know, he's going to finish on the podium. That's good solid points. 5 playoff points. And of course, you know, if he does win the regular season, it's going to be another 12 playoff points again. He's playing the long game, I'm sure he is. And thinking about his route to Miami. This is race 87. 13 weeks after the 2-week break, of course. 13 weeks of straight racing all the way to Miami, Florida, where we'll crown the season 6 champion.
Another pit stop out there. Is Yuri gonna try and snipe the fastest lap right at the end of the race? He's pitting on lap 23 out of 25 for him anyway. He hasn't. Well, he probably actually has started at 24 now. But yeah, he'll come out and we'll see if he can do that. It'll be a last lap try, and I think we will give the last couple of laps to Jake. We will watch him take us round because this is going to be 2 wins in a row here in Saudi Arabia for Jake. 70 days on from his remarkable championship win. A shock championship win. This is anything but a shock as MK Bourne crashes out at a race and goes just in the first sector. Hopefully no one ends up going with him. But yeah, Jake, 70 days on. It's been... Geez, that is a dangerous place to be crashing, isn't it? But
that's what I was thinking.
but yeah, luckily no one's ended up in his way. But yeah, it's the complete opposite of last season. Last season was shock and chaos for him. He had to pull the most remarkable move I've ever seen in any league race, considering the stakes involved. Today, the move for the win, simple. Breezing past on the straight, pulling away, and it's going to be a race win where he actually crosses the line first as well, because he didn't cross the line first last time. So it's all done on merit, and there's no penalties to take that P1 finish away like we had in Mexico. It's all going to come together. It's going to be the easy route to the playoffs. No stressing about where he's going to end up. No pointless finishes early on in the season that will curtail his entire championship. This is a man under control and finally fulfilling the potential.
And he will unfortunately snap our streak of different race winners. So we won't get 6 in a row, but we will continue this season 4 from 4. And Jake, well, do you want another little stat, Owen? He will be the first JACKOCAR driver ever to win 2 races in a row at which the track has been the same circuit. That's a new one for you.
Yeah.
Half a lap to go.
It's also interesting to see he's the only driver who will ever be able to say he's won every race at the Saudi Arabia track in the Cup Series. No one else knows what it's like to win here. And he is about to come round the final corner. There's no one lunging him on the inside like we saw last season. It's a simple run, and Jake is about to take his second JACKOCAR Cup Series victory. He's into the playoffs, and it is absolute domination. Fantastic stuff from him. And coming on second place, Casper, no grave mistakes this time round. He'll be happy enough of that, I suppose, on the Joker. And Iceman coming home P3. Is that fastest lap going to go? Let's see. Because Yuri is coming up to the final corner. He's up on his current best. He's used up his ERS. You have a little bit more to get to the line. There is a playoff point in for this, so if he can get it, it'll be very helpful to his season. But he doesn't. So Iceman will be able to sleep easy tonight as he keeps that fastest lap. SD Mats, another top 5 for him, another top 4 for him, in fact. And absolutely doing a superb job this season. Jamie, P5. Michelle crosses the line in P6.
Great
Ben
drive.
made the most spots up today, went a bit under the radar for a while, but he's ended up P7. Risky on his return in 8th. Gareth is going to end up in P9. A bit on his own there, really, wasn't he? A lot of them have sort of spent the remainder of this race on their own. I'm sure they're probably going to be happy it's over. I wonder how many... Oh, Connor, you idiot. Get to the line.
Gareth especially, he'll be happy that he just got to the end. He hates this track, man.
Is he going to get done? Oh, is Jordan going to do him? Are we going to see a last lap pass? Oh, not quite. Connor,
no.
Lucky boy.
There you
All
go.
for points. I mean, that's a point he really needed to keep there, Connor. From last in the grid, didn't qualify, went straight into the race. So fair enough for him to get to the end. But that is us then. That's us done.
That race, it wasn't the most exciting, but it was a good race. It was a good race.
That Flashpoint was interesting. I'm sure the Flashpoint will trigger many conversations any minute now in the chat. Because, yeah, plenty to talk about with that major pile-up. And it's a theme we've seen this season. It's happened twice. These cars are more difficult to drive on this game, and I'm going to say that is a factor. That's a factor. I don't think that's the last big one we're going to see this season. It depends when the next one will be. Interestingly, we've seen 2 of our most recent big pilots happen directly off restarts as well, which is interesting. We saw Japan, remember, last season, and here today. So, yeah, I do wonder what the drivers think about how this all works and how that will affect the rest of the season. But at the end of today's race, it is Jake into the playoffs. 4 different winners in 4 races, and Jake on top. Casper second, Iceman third, ST Mats 4th, Jamie 5th, Michelle 6th, Ben 7th, Risky 8th, Gareth 9th, Pete 10th, Connor and Jordan and Yuri are finishers. MK Bourne crashed right towards the end, still classified though, and then the victims of the pile-up: Jess, Kieran, J-Luke, Tease and Leroy, and Corey, who crashed out right at the start of the race.
There you go. That, looking back, you compare Championship 5 with all the hype around it, the build-up. How easy did that look for Jake today compared to, what was it, 2.5 months ago?
Well, this is it. I mean, it was so easy to say, but again, like I mentioned before, even in that Championship 5, I noticed particularly his ERS management and how, even under that much pressure, he was able to stay calm. And it was always, for him, about getting the big result. It just happened to be at the perfect time he got that big result, but I always sort of expected he'd kick on from that point. Same with Kieran as well. He got the first win, a few years later got the second one, and so we're seeing these drivers now starting to get to grips with JACKOCAR and starting to get the results. So good for Jake to see him out there. I don't think that's the last of it. I think we're going to see a bit more of that from him this season. Make this a regular occurrence.
Absolutely. Jake, part of this, the new guard replacing the old guard, you know, old names, Khalifa, are now, we got this new breed coming through. Casper, Jake, Kieran, Esty Mats. Although then again, Esty Mats and Iceman, people like that, they're not the new guard, but they are starting to get with the league and understand its rules, understand how it works. And I think we've got a very, very good field of drivers here, and where, you know, the majority of which can win a race. And I think it sets us up nicely for a 2-week break before 6 more regular season races before that final run into Miami in December.
Yep, so that will be us then for tonight. I took the first 3 weeks of the season off, and then I'm back here, and within an hour we're already on another break. That's just how it works around here. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the race. Happy to be back. My voice didn't give out, which is a good thing because my throat is killing me, and I was quite worried actually secretly we weren't going to be able to get this done, but here we go. Got there in the end. And yeah, next you'll be hearing from me. I'll be in Manchester, and I'm really hoping we have good internet because, yeah, that could pose problems. But let's not worry about that now. Enjoy the 2 weeks off, and we'll be back at the end of that with K-Series returning, of course, as well. So JACKOCAR will be back in force in 2 weeks. Enjoy your time off. Enjoy the F1 back this weekend. Don't forget it. At the Belgian Grand Prix. Could be the last one we have there, so I'd say watch it. Assuming it doesn't rain too much. So, thank you all for watching. See you soon. Safe travels.